This video is about how to improve your narrative skill in your personal narrative project. So your narrative skill is here at the top of your rubric, and all this is about is your plot diagram. So this is the plot diagram that we learned a few weeks ago when you were outlining, and this whole skill has to do with each part of this plot diagram. So making sure you have each of these parts. So I'm going to go ahead and read each level in this rubric. So for level 2, rising action creates little suspense or does not clearly lead to the climax. One or more parts of the plot diagram are missing from the narrative. For level 3, the rising action logically leads to the climax, and the parts of the plot diagram are clear and organized in the narrative. That means that I can see each of these parts, and the rising action leads to this climax here. For level 4, rising action builds on the climax and leads to the climax. Builds on the conflict and leads to the climax, and parts of the plot diagram build upon each other and connect together to make one smooth story. If you have forgotten any parts of the plot diagram, you can look at the definitions that are in your Step 2 document. There are the key terms and definitions here. This video is about how to improve your narrative skill in your personal narrative project. So this narrative skill is here at the top of your rubric, and it has to do with the plot diagram that we learned at the very beginning of this unit as you were outlining your personal narrative project. So this plot diagram includes each of these parts: setting, main conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and theme, along with your characters. Each of these parts should be clear in your personal narrative. If you have forgotten the definitions of any of these parts, you can look in your Step 2 document where you can find the terms and the definitions for each of the parts that I just listed. I'm going to go over each part of the rubric for this skill. So for level 2, rising action creates little suspense or does not clearly lead to the climax. That means that there's no connection between the rising action and the climax. One or more parts of the plot diagram are missing from the narrative. So again, there's something here in this plot diagram that's missing. 3, rising action logically leads to the climax. That means that this rising action here leads to the climax, and it makes sense. Parts of the plot diagram are clear and organized in the narrative. That means that the whole story has each part. For level 4, rising action builds on the conflict and leads to the climax. So for this one, there is a relationship between the conflict and the rising action, and they build on each other in order to reach the climax of your story, which is the most exciting and also the part of your story where you realize something or you learn the lesson of your theme. And for level 4, parts of the plot diagram build upon each other and connect together to make one smooth story. So basically the same thing. You want to make sure that each part is connecting to each other for level 4. I'm going to go through an example now. As I read this example, I made mine super short and simple. I want you to think about what should I add and what should I take out that is related or not related to this plot diagram. So anything that's not related to any of these parts, I should take out. Anything that is related, I should add if it's not already in there. Okay? I'm sitting at the kitchen table doing my math homework. My mom tells me that we need to get a wig this weekend because she has cancer and her hair is falling out. My brother is playing video games in the living room. My mom and I get into an argument about whose house we're staying at this weekend. I end up saying the F word to my mom. My mom tells me I've become so American. I go to my room feeling very angry and a little guilty. My dad calls and we talk about my grandma's birthday party. I end up staying with my mom that weekend and we went to the wig shop to buy wigs. So right now I'm thinking, what should I take out that's not related to my rising action, conflict, or climax? Okay, there are 2 paragraphs in here that I should take out. Take a moment right now, pause the video, and think about which 2 paragraphs that should be. So, my brother playing video games in the living room is not related to my overall story, so I'm actually going to take that out. The other part that's not related to my story is my dad calling me about my grandma's birthday. A lot of your narratives go into detail about parts that aren't related to your overall story and your overall plot diagram. So you should delete any paragraphs that are not related. Now, I want to add something in here that will contribute to my conflict and rising action and the tension here that lead to my conflict. So, here I don't have a detail that leads into the argument. So I'm going to add a part here about getting frustrated about my parents' divorce at school, because that contributes to me getting to an argument with my mom, and then eventually here the climax, saying the F word to my mom. So I get frustrated about my parents' divorce and things at school. So now I've created a little bit more detail about my conflict and also the rising action that then leads to the climax of my story. So what you should think about is, what should you add that will contribute to your climax and make your climax or conflict more exciting? What should you take out that has nothing to do with the main part of your story? Those are the 2 questions you should ask yourself as you revise your narrative skill.